Hello, my friends. Welcome to Melanie Smith Stamps. Today we are jumping in and playing with LDRS Creative's Fruit Tree Bundle. This bundle has 3 parts, the stamp, die, and stencil. And we are going to make 2 cards, stamped 2 different ways and stenciled 2 different ways. In the first card, I'm using the set for the very first time. And we stumble a little bit. So I'm going to show you how to backtrack and fix those little stumbles. And then in the second one, we will jump right in knowing exactly what we're doing and have no issues at all. That commonly happens when you're crafting. Now I'm showing you the inside here of the packaging. It's very, very handy to have LDRS's packaging because it is so self-explanatory. Now I'm maneuvering my stamp here inside my stamp wheel. This is the 2.0 stamp wheel from Altenew. And I moved it over to the right just a little bit because you see the stem there on the left? It's still hanging over just a little. So I'm going to move the paper until I get it exactly where I want it. That's the beauty of the stamp wheel. And the 2.0 allows you to take off the right-hand side of the stamp wheel, which we will be doing here in just a few minutes. So I'm taking this large stamp and I am partially stamping it here on the left. Now I'm going to ink it up here. And now I added the sentiment as well there, you see. So I'm stamping it up again and just giving it a little extra darkness. I want to make sure I get a really good impression. Remember, I'm stamping this towards the beginning of the process, and I'm wanting to make sure I get it really nice and crisp, which is another beauty of the stamp wheel. So here I'm lining this up so they kind of nestle together, but I'm going off the edge there to the right, you see. So I've removed the sidebar of the stamp wheel 2.0, and it can hang off there, which is another plus of the 2.0. So I'm enjoying being able to do that with my large stamps. And in the new release coming out, we have a 5x7 stamp that is going to be beautiful for this type of thing. We'll be able to use it with 5x7s or A2s, which will be wonderful. So speaking of the new release from LDRS Creative is coming out on May 29th. So this Thursday coming up. So be watching for that. I am going to be going live on Monday, and I'm changing my time to 8 p.m. So come check me out live at 8 p.m. on Monday. We are going to be using the fireworks and the foil machine with the firework BetterPress plate. I have a fun technique to share with you, and I think it's going to be interesting. So I hope you will come back and craft life together with me Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. So you see here on this plate, I went ahead and stamped the whole stamp out on this one, like you would do in any stamp positioner. And I'm prepping the stamp there, and because I forgot to add the sentiment. But I went ahead and did that easy peasy, and we are done with our stamping of both of our cards. So these are going to be 1-layer cards. And here again, I'm looking and reminding myself of the layers, and I'm picking my colors. I'm going to do lemons this time. We're going to do a different color in the next one. But this time, I'm looking at the stencils for the first time, and I'm looking and finding a landmark. And you see that point at the end of that lemon, there where my pointer finger is. That is going to be my landmark. And I always recommend with stencil sets that you find a landmark. Almost all stencil sets have them. You just have to look for them. And when you find that landmark, it is so easy to line the stencils up. And when you maneuver your stamps like I have here and make your own design, and you don't line the stencil up with your paper, like with the registrations that come a lot of times on stencils, having that landmark helps you maneuver your stencil so that it does line up for you easier. Now, on the LDRS stencils, they are gloriously made for the crafter because she has the etched lines already there for you, which you will also be able to find that landmark also on your coordinating, like right now, I'm actually inking that actual lemon, but on the next stencil, the etched area is still visible. See where I was pointing right there? So I can still line up that same landmark right there and be able to know what direction to lay that stencil. Now I'm just making a note here to look at something for the color-wise to see what order they're doing. And that's the beautiful thing about having the actual, you know, instructions right there in color and everything. Now, speaking of colors, let me go through what colors I'm using here. Now, I'm using Altenew dye-based inks, and for my lemons, and this is where I've made my mistake that we're going to fix here momentarily. For this first layer, and we're on the second stencil now, and this is where I start to realize I'm making a mistake. But with my first stencil, I used the jet black to stamp both of them in. Then I used Citrus Burst, Limeade, and Polar Bear. This is the Polar Bear right here. And I was thinking in my mind that these are going to have other layers to layer on top of the lemons so we could do our darker color. Well, they don't. Each stencil is a stencil of its own. So you have to actually do more colors on top of each other. In other words, both yellows, because I want to see here, I'm figuring it out right now. See when I'm layering it up. So I'm using 2 yellows, 2 greens, and then the blue. So my Citrus Burst also needs to have my mid yellow. So you're going to see me start to add that mid yellow in here momentarily when I do the next lemon, because I need to have the light. And see there, I added the dark green right there, the limeade. That was the first time I realized it and added it. So my limeade is my light color and my lime is the darker color. Okay, so let me repeat that. The Citrus Burst is my light yellow, and the mid yellow is my dark yellow. Here's the dark yellow here. Watch the difference. See, I'm adding that yellow in there. You see, you still see the light because I'm only adding the yellow at the base of the lemons. But look at the difference there. And you'll see it more so as we move on. But you want to add the darker color to the base. And from here on out, I'm going to be doing that to all of them. And then we'll come back around and do the ones in the first stencil. So that is my mistake. And just to review, because I interrupted myself, my colors are Citrus Burst and mid yellow for my yellows. I'm using limeade for my light and limeade for my light and lime, correct, for my greens, my light and dark. And then I'm using the Polar Bear for the blues. Sorry about that. I had to reread and make sure. I wanted to make sure I gave you the right color. So here, watch here for the lemon now. So Citrus Burst is on top. We're going to go in and ink the whole thing with Citrus Burst. And then we're going to go in here with the smaller brush and ink with the mid yellow. And it's amazing how big of a difference that looks. Doing the same thing here, limeade and then lime. So it makes such a difference. So I hope you can follow that a little bit. You will see it more and more as we go through because I don't mess up anymore. So that just goes to show you that we're all human. And when we play with a product for the first time, we're learning. You know, we all have to learn the product. And I'm no different than you are. I'm crafting with you. That's why I want to craft life with you. No one's better than another, you know? And that's the point. But as we craft and we craft more and more and more and more, we learn a lot. And so, you know, as I learn things, I love to pass it on to you because I do craft a lot. So that's the beauty of having a channel and sharing what I learn with you. And I love doing that. So thank you for being here. If I don't say it often enough, thank you. Thank you for spending time with me. Thank you for just spending, using that time to be here with me, because I just absolutely love crafting with you. So I'm filling in that yellow. I love the way the yellow transforms the lemons. It is just, I went going back in with a little light there just to blend those two colors out. See, I'm adding the dark colors right here. There we go. Look at that. Doesn't that look amazing? I just love how the dark, see, I'm going back over where I did just the light ones, and I'm fixing my boo-boos right now. So I sped this up pretty quick because I'm just redoing the same type of process. Figured we could talk while I was redoing it. So I'm just, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, what do I have to fix? What do I have to fix? So I'm just showing you there that I'm going to the second stencil now back so that I can finish the yellow on this little guy. Just getting everything done, and do the green on this one and darken this one up. Perfect. So this is a joy to work with this set. I just was really having it. Now at this point, I wanted these flowers to be white, which is why I just used a little bit of blue as a hint. But then I decided to try a tiny dusting. See, I'm drying it off. A tiny dusting of yellow on them too, because they are going to turn into the lemons. So I thought, let me see, because it's just looking a little dull. So I went ahead and went over those flowers with just a minimal amount of the citrus burst. I just wanted a tiny, tiny, and I keep dotting it off. If you notice there on the stencil, I'm dotting it off because I don't want a lot of ink. I just want a little. And I'm having to go back and forth because there's a lot of stencils that cover all of these flowers. Each stencil has just a couple of the buds. But at the end, I really like the way it turned out on the flowers. And then the little tiny buds that are opening, I did half green and half yellow. I'm not sure if you realize that, but I did do that. And on the close-up pictures, you can see it better. So I'm just going to now do the edge. And I decided to come in. So for a little more drastic color, I decided to come in on the edges very carefully and just give us a blue sky. And as you can see, the final project is just lovely. So now we're moving on to our second card. And in our second card, we're going to change the colors up. We're going to use an orange and make oranges out of this bunch of fruit. So I thought navel oranges would be good. And we're going to start with Firefly. Firefly is our light green color. And we're speeding this up because we've seen this all before. But we're going to use Grassfield as our darker color. And this time we're going to do it the right way. So we're using 2 layers on each stenciled area, except for the white flowers, which are going to be, we're going to use Citrus Burst only on. So those are our greens for our first layer. And here we're coming in with Chamomile. Chamomile is going to be our light orange, and then Snapdragon is our dark orange, and this really gives a nice pop of color. Doing that dark right under the base of those flowers and around the top edge just allows for that highlight to pop and gives it such a nice rounded look. So I'm wiping my stencil right there, and when I did, I got a mark down on the bottom edge of the paper where the stencil and the paper overlap there. So you're going to have to watch to the end and see how I fix that in the final photograph. I do figure out a way to cover up my mistakes. There's always a way to embellish. So, and I actually end up liking this card better than the first one, even though we were able to rescue the first one as well. I was able to rescue this one as well, and I like it even better. So I hope you are sticking around to the end of the video so you can see how it turns out. Now, I'm going to continue on here with stencil number 2, and here is where I use the Citrus Burst. Now, I'm using the Citrus Burst on half of the flower buds, and then the rest of the flower buds we're leaving completely white. And that is going to give a really nice yellow flower bud. So it's like it's starting to bloom, but it's not completely turned yellow yet. And I really like the way that turns out. It gives us a little pop of color, but not too much. So the leaves being this green combination of the firefly and the grass field is really a nice pop as well. I think this color with the orange really is a nice contrasting group of colors. So I really think that's the reason why I ended up liking this one the best. That and the way I embellish it as well. I like the way the placement of the embellishments turn out. So I hope you guys are enjoying this and seeing the two ways you can stencil and the two ways you can stamp this set. When you have a large set like this, it's nice that you have options. And in the new release, you're going to have that as well in the new floral that we have. So be watching, be watching. Make sure you catch me on Monday for that live, and we will play together again. Now here we're lining up the last stencil, it looks like, and then you will get to see the final reveal. I cannot wait. This is so much fun. Now, something about stenciling, it's such a zen feeling. It's so relaxing, and I have so much fun. It's like it's so freeing. You can add as many layers as you want. You can add just one layer. It's just totally, totally fun. Now, that right there, I added that pure mid yellow to the centers there. So they're a tad darker, but that's the only mid yellow I used. The citrus burst was the other yellow. So here we go. We're almost there. Just adding a tad bit of citrus burst, and voila, check it out. Now I'm going to get a little sand eraser and attempt to pull that off at the bottom. That's the mono sand eraser from Tombow. And it helps with the small one, but the larger one does not come off. Now I'm going to do what I did with the last card and also add that coordinating blue edge to give us some sky, because this branch is hanging from the tree. And that's why I put that tree limb towards the top up there. And so this just finishes off our scene, which I think has just turned out beautiful. So let me know what you think. Leave me some comments down below. I hope to see you on Monday and again on Thursday next week. Bye-bye for now.